my name is Holly Joyce and this is my Unit 8 presentation on the roles and responsibilities of the midwife. During this presentation, I will discuss the recent changes and their impact on the roles and responsibilities of the midwife, the impact of the midwife in meeting the physical, social and psychological needs of a woman and her family, and the role of the Nursing and Midwifery Council, NMC, in relation to midwifery practice. I will then go on to analyse the implication of the code on midwifery practice and the role of the midwife, and lastly I will explain the need for effective communication within a multidisciplinary healthcare setting and evaluate the effectiveness of the multidisciplinary approach in a healthcare setting. Let's firstly look at the recent changes and their impact on the roles and responsibilities of the midwife. Before the creation of the NHS, women would typically give birth at home, usually without the help of a qualified professional. This meant a higher mortality rate for both mothers and babies. When the NHS was established, women were encouraged to give birth in hospital, where they would stay for around a week, supported by midwives throughout their whole stay. There are a number of factors which have led to the changes in the roles and responsibilities of the midwife. These are political and legal changes, financial changes, educational changes, technological and scientific changes, social changes and organisational changes. Let's look in more detail at some of these. I have chosen to look at political and legal, technological and scientific and organisational changes. Firstly, let's look at the political and legal changes. Midwifery became legally recognised in 1902 with the introduction of the Midwives Act. However, at this point in time, non-certified midwives were still practising. This was until 1910 when it became illegal for an uncertified midwife to attend a birth unless supervised by a certified midwife. Since then, there have been numerous government acts that have been passed that have moulded midwifery practice to what it is today. Let's take a look at a few of these. Firstly, there was the NHS Act 1946. This act offered a free comprehensive healthcare to the entire population, meaning that midwives as well as doctors were easily accessible by all pregnant women. At this time, a pregnant woman would be seen regularly throughout her pregnancy by a GP, as this was a requirement for them to claim the fee from the NHS. It was, however, never a requirement that the doctor attend the birth, so a midwife may well not have met her patient before the birth. This is very different to the continuity of care that exists today. Then there was the Patient's Charter. Introduced in the 1990s, this made healthcare professionals, HCPs, more accountable for their own actions, enforcing things such as patient rights and responsibility and code of practice. Then there was the Francis Report 2013. This report identified safety problems within the NHS and made 290 recommendations that staff capability be improved to promote a much higher level of quality and safety within the healthcare system. Lastly, the NICE quality standard by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. This report recommended that women should be cared for by a named midwife throughout her pregnancy. The Better Births report had showed that this is something that women value, and a study had shown that only 38% of women saw the same midwife at each one of their antenatal checkups. Now let's look at scientific and technological changes. Technology has developed extremely quickly in recent years. For the healthcare system, this has meant means to make new scientific discoveries and has allowed a more extensive research of diseases, conditions and treatments. New devices and machines have been designed and developed for both diagnosis and treatment, so alongside other learning and development, HCPs need training and educating on these and have to keep up to date on any changes. Technology has also facilitated patient record keeping. With all the information entered into one central system, accessible by all HCPs, it means that there are likely to be less mistakes or things overlooked. This is more time efficient too, as manual records would have had to have been transported from department to department, whereas now they are available at the click of a button. Lastly, I would like to look at organisational changes, triggered by each and every other one of the factors that I mentioned. The NHS has without doubt moved with the times and made the necessary changes within itself to provide a high quality of care. These changes have resulted in anticipatory approach, clearer communication systems, strong leadership, safer environment and a higher quality of care. The COVID-19 pandemic, when the NHS was stretched beyond limits, has highlighted the need for some organisational changes such as putting the workforce centre stage, a step change on equalities and population health, lasting reform for social care, embedding and accelerating digital change, and reshaping the relationship between communities and public services. Let's now discuss the impact of a midwife in meeting the physical, social and psychological needs of a woman and her family. When a woman discovers that she's pregnant, she without doubt will have numerous questions which will be aimed at her midwife about all aspects of pregnancy, birth and beyond. It is the job of the midwife to provide correct and concise information and guidance. A midwife will provide support to the expectant mother with both her physical and mental health. Various physical assessments will be carried out to determine the health of the mother. These include height and weight checks, urine tests to check for urine infections, and later on in pregnancy to test for protein, which could be a sign of preeclampsia. Blood tests to check for certain conditions such as anemia and gestational diabetes. And the expectant mother will also be offered a CO2 test to check for smoking status. The midwife will listen for baby's heartbeat through a Doppler throughout the pregnancy and will measure the fundus to monitor fetal growth. The midwife will also offer advice on things such as diet and exercise for the mother to maintain a healthy pregnancy. Psychological assessments will also be carried out in the form of a number of questions to determine the mother's mental health and to flag up any potential risks, for example, domestic violence. The midwife also plays a vital role in assisting with the social needs of the mother. Quite often, a pregnant woman or new mum can feel isolated and alone. The midwife will make her aware of ways in which she can help herself to not feel like this, advising of different groups and services available. Before the birth, there are antenatal classes that a woman can attend either alone or with her partner, which will help her to prepare for the birth and beyond that. After baby arrives, there are mother and baby groups, both in person or online on various social media platforms such as Facebook. Here, new mums can meet other mums in the same situation. There are also websites available that are a wealth of knowledge in their field, such as the NCT, the National Childbirth Trust, and La Leche Leap, a breastfeeding specialist. After the birth, the midwife checks on the well-being of mum and baby, and also the rest of the family for up to 6 weeks when the health visitor will take over. The midwife carries out several checks on baby over this time. They will perform a full body check, hearing test, and the heel prick test, which is a test that detects conditions such as cystic fibrosis. The midwife will also look out for conditions such as jaundice and oral thrush and monitor the healing of the umbilical cord. The midwife will also monitor the mother's physical and mental health, examining her uterus, lochia, perineum and breasts to make sure her body is recovering as it should from the birth. The midwife will look for signs of postnatal depression in the mother and will also look out for signs of depression in other family members. The arrival of a new baby can be overwhelming for the whole family, and if the midwife has any concerns, she will take appropriate action, such as referral to the family GP. The midwife will also offer the family advice on things such as feeding routines and safe sleeping to prevent sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Next, I would like to look at the role of the Nursing and Midwifery Council in relation to midwifery practice. The Nursing and Midwifery Council, the NMC, is the regulating body for all nurses, midwives and nursing associates. It exists to protect the health and well-being of the public. It is structured around 4 themes: prioritising people, practising effectively, preserving safety and promoting professionalism and trust. The NMC has 3 main roles: to regulate, which is making sure that HCPs are working to the best possible standards; maintaining the register of HCPs in the UK, and investigating any concerns or complaints and taking the necessary action. Secondly, to support. This is offering guidance and support throughout an HCP's career, providing materials to help them meet the required standards and enhance their knowledge, and support through any investigations. And lastly, to influence health and social care, promoting a healthy and inclusive working environment for all healthcare professionals. The NMC also has a revalidation process, which is mandatory every 3 years. HCPs must reapply to remain on the register and need to meet certain requirements that prove they are keeping up to date with current knowledge and are practicing safely and efficiently. Now I would like to analyse the implications of the code on midwifery practice and the role of the midwife. The code is the mantra of the NMC. It details the required standards that HCPs must adhere to. It became effective in 2015. When an HCP joins the register, they are committing to upholding these standards. Each of the 4 themes are detailed within each subsection of the code. Let's summarise each one. Prioritising people. This is putting the interests of people first, making their care and safety the main concern. The dignity of the patient must be preserved at all times, and the needs recognised and responded to in the correct manner. Those being treated should be treated with respect and any discriminatory attitudes challenged. Practicing effectively. To assess need and deliver treatment without delay. Communicate effectively, keep clear records, share any skills and experience where appropriate, and reflect on any feedback that you receive. Preserving safety. This is making sure that public and patient safety is not compromised. Work within your limits. Raise concerns immediately if you think public safety is at risk. Promoting professionalism and trust. This is upholding the reputation of the profession, displaying personal commitment to standard of practice, being a model of integrity, and practicing patient confidentiality. If the standards of the code are not met, the NMC will investigate and take appropriate action. This could mean a caution, or in worst cases could mean removal from the register, also known as being struck off. This means a person can no longer practice. How does the code ensure high quality? In order to achieve the highest quality of care, certain tools are used. These include the use of mentors. Pre-registration, it is mandatory for all student HCPs to work with a mentor. These will be certified mentors in their field and will assist with learning, feedback on work, and assess in practice placements. CPD, continuing professional development. This is used throughout a midwife's career to ensure maintenance and enhancing of knowledge to practice safely in the constantly changing healthcare environment. CPD is also a part of the requirement for revalidation. Lastly, revalidation. Midwives are initially required to apply to be on the register, and then they must undergo revalidation every 3 years. This will confirm their validity to remain on the register. The revalidation process. There are a number of requirements for revalidation, and these are listed on the slide and include proof of practice hours, proof of CPD, and practice-related feedback. The NMC code protects the public by ensuring that high quality, safe and professional healthcare is compulsory across the board. There are, in my opinion, no disadvantages to the code. Now to look at the need for effective communication within a multidisciplinary healthcare setting. A multidisciplinary team is a group of different HCPs working together with a common focus, being the patient. The second picture on the slide shows the possible members of a multidisciplinary team for a pregnant woman. Team members combine their knowledge and skills to meet the needs of the patient. Every patient has different needs. For example, the multidisciplinary team for a pregnant woman with mental health issues would include the midwife, the obstetrician, the woman's GP, and mental health services. Communication is vital within a multidisciplinary team. Effective communication means operation efficiency, continuity, and clarity. If communication is poor, this can lead to poor patient care, increased casualties, poor organisation and less productivity. Communication failures often have a negative effect on patient and staff satisfaction. There are many benefits to working as a team for all involved. The patient will receive integrated care for a wider range of conditions and feel more involved in their care. Time is used more efficiently and they receive a better quality of care. Staff get professional satisfaction, their learning is facilitated, innovation encouraged, and they are able to concentrate on their area of expertise. And lastly, for the organisation, services run more efficiently, resources are maximised, burden is less on acute care facilities as a knock-on effect of increased preventative care, and it is easier to define the problematic areas. Working as a multidisciplinary team also comes with its limitations. For example, time pressure is involved in providing services. Team members not only have their own job function, but they also have to communicate with other team members. Different team members are from unique backgrounds. Not everybody knows what everybody else does, and not everyone works the same shift pattern, which makes it more difficult to collaborate. Also, people have different opinions. Frequent collaboration is required. Aside from the differing shift patterns, meetings can go on for 2 to 3 hours, which is a lot of time for someone to take out of their working day. It is dependent upon resources. Resources aren't always available, and that includes manpower. This means it's not always possible for all recommendations of the team to be carried out at one time. Incomplete decisions are made without complete information. Sometimes not all the information from all team members is present. This makes it impossible to make a decision with maximum benefit. And lastly, if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. If someone doesn't document something, then the rest of the team won't know about it. This could mean that vital information is overlooked and mistakes made. And in a worst case, this could result in civil or legal investigation due to the missing information. So for a multidisciplinary team to be successful, it must have the following attributes: collaborative practice, clear communication, clear definition of tasks and responsibilities, clear goals, objectives and strategies, recognition of and respect for the competence and contribution of each team member, competent leadership, clear procedures for evaluating the effectiveness of the team, support for team members as required, and recognition of the contribution of team members' experience. So, to conclude, a midwife has many roles and responsibilities, and these have changed as a result of many factors over time. A midwife is a priceless support to a pregnant woman and her family throughout pregnancy, birth and beyond. A midwife must meet the standards set by the NMC and detailed within the code. Midwives work as part of a multidisciplinary team where communication is vital. And in the midwifery and healthcare profession, the safety of the patient is paramount. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.